Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the channel. This is the September overview. Welcome, my patrons. If you're watching this, you're seeing this first. And for anyone who does not know about my Patreon, you can watch the monthlies early there. I'm also going to start releasing other types of content early on Patreon. I am still getting my head around content release strategy, if you will. And yeah, guys, I want to really bring a podcast to Patreon. I have a lot that I want to still do, and I've just been really busy lately with consultations and a lot of other stuff. But I'm trying my best to still navigate the digital space, to be honest. And even when it comes to these monthlies, I want to really not get so heavy into the details when I really want to make other videos in the future about the same topics I might bring up today. So with this monthly in mind, and with all my other videos in mind, which actually, if you've noticed the last couple of videos, I've taken some things that in the modern, transits that have been going on, but I've really been making them, I don't know, just a little bit different than my older videos. It's almost like a little podcasty, and I'm really starting to feel this podcastiness about me. And I know that that's going to be some kind of major shift and pivot in my life very soon. So, I feel like all my recent videos have been like, yeah, they're important to highlight. I've been talking a little bit about some stuff going on in the world too. But yeah, guys, I'm still getting my sea legs, and if you've been with me since the beginning of this channel on YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, the channel only began in mid-April, so relatively new here to YouTube still. So I think some of my shifts and pivots and meanderings and wanting to know what I should do or this, that, and the other thing, I think it's acceptable for my continued creative expansion. But my friends, let's just dive right into September so I don't run the risk of rambling about stupid things. But this overview will be literally just an overview, okay? Because I need to train myself to not ramble so much when I know I'm going to make detailed videos about many of these things in the month to come. Now, one thing I'll say right off the bat is that Venus will already be in Libra as September begins, so let's keep that in mind during the course of this conversation. Pluto will be shifting into Capricorn literally the 1st of September. The 2nd of September, we will have a new moon in Virgo, which I love. We will then have Mars in Cancer September 4th. We will then have Mercury enter Virgo September 9th. So if you think about the end of August to September 9th, all of the personal planets are shifting signs, okay? And Pluto will be shifting back into Capricorn one final time in our lifetime, in our children's lifetime. For another 200 and something years, we will not see Pluto in Capricorn again. And if you're an American or even a person of the world, this is a defining moment in my country because of this election cycle and of the controversy attached to it and the threatening nature of it all. No matter what side you're on, there seems to be a threat from both sides, right? Everybody thinks the other person is the next Stalin. And we have the US Pluto return getting activated one last time before the election begins. Because the moment the election happens, Pluto will still be in Capricorn, 29 degrees, but then it will flip into Aquarius shortly after the election, bringing in a new age, a Pluto and Aquarius age. So by September 9th, we're having massive shifts, okay? Massive shifts of energies, plus the new moon in Virgo is really going to be kicking this off, okay? And this is the first major lunation cycle after the full moon in Aquarius, which was a massive moment for the middle of August, and a lot of us might have felt that influence of that and the influence of the T-square, Okay. And we talked about that last week and the weeks before. And then we have some interesting aspects that I may mention in this video, I may not, like the Sun in Virgo squares Jupiter and Gemini at 20 degrees. That will be happening September 12th. And of course, we'll touch on the full moon in Pisces, which is also a partial lunar eclipse. And then Venus will ingress into Scorpio September 23rd. And then at the way end of this video, depending on how much I talk about or how much I ramble, I may just briefly bring up, and if I don't bring it up later in the video, I'm bringing it up now, that we will have our annual solar eclipse October 2nd. So in my opinion, this month is pretty intense, but it's actually a good intense. I like September for all of us on an individual level. I think Mars in Cancer is the only question mark for all of us, because I think wherever your Cancer is in your life, meaning, the house topic, wherever Cancer is in your birth chart, Mars will probably be bringing us inner frustration, assertiveness that can't be expressed properly. I think there might be conflicting emotions, just generally speaking, the conflict with our emotions, Mars providing conflict with the emotional system. There could be issues involving any sort of femininity. I don't know what that can mean. But again, in our personal lives, sometimes Mars in Cancer is a good transit because we need kind of like our assertiveness and frustration and some of this, kind of loose-tongued energy, which Mars in Gemini has been providing no shortage of loose tongues and, rapid fire aggressive thoughts. But Mars in Cancer could be providing us a little bit of like, all right, let's cool our jets now. Let's bring Mars into Cancer, wherever that part of your life is. Let's activate some things there. Yeah, we'll probably get some emotional conflicts arise, whether from the external world to us or us manifesting for whatever reason. And it could be a little turbulent for the Cancer part of your life. But it also could be a moment where we can progress and assert ourselves in an area of life where maybe we're more docile. So that's the more positive manifestation of Mars in Cancer. But again, your karma, the house topic it's falling in, will dictate, whatever the universe decides to manifest in your journey right now. But yeah, my friends, all the personal planets are shifting signs. So this is huge, and this is something that I really want to drive home, as a major part of this video. And I might not even go through all of these things in detail because I will be making a video on Pluto and Capricorn that actually is going to be my next video I release. We will make videos on new moon in Virgo, Mars in Cancer, Mercury in Virgo. We're going to talk all about this later in the month. But for the sake of just grouping this together, right? Venus is already in Libra in her domicile. Mercury will go back into Virgo as it's progressing through its post-Mercury retrograde phase. And most of September into the middle of December, we are still in the post-shadow, right? The integration phase. So much of what the Mercury retrograde brought us will be resolving itself and finally clearing up as September gets in full swing. So the first half of September, including the new moon in Virgo, which may have something to do with your Mercury retrograde story, considering the Mercury retrograde began at 6 degrees Virgo. So those early degrees of Virgo are very, very, very important. Okay, so whatever is your Virgo part of your life, it was activated by the Mercury retrograde. But I've been saying that Leo has been the more dominant focus for the retrograde story in your life. But some of you may have early Virgo placements, in those first couple of degrees. And that may have been a real big trigger point for you regarding the retrograde cycle. So this is important to keep in mind for the new moon, because the new moon, as we know, are activation seeding points, things we can regrow, things we can really intentionally focus our conscious energy upon. These are moments where we can examine that part of our life, go, hey, is there anything that needs to be adjusted? Is there anything that needs to be changed? Is there anything that needs, a spring cleaning? Is there anything that we can really put some focus on to grow, right? That is the significance of new moons, in my opinion. Something may already be manifesting for you to kind of already look at, right? And go, ooh, well, that needs a little second, focus. That needs to be looked at a little bit clearer. Ooh, that I should put some of my money on that horse. You know what I mean? I'm trying to use as many analogies as I can for an opportunity that arises, and you can now put your focus on it, right? New moons are infamous for kind of bringing things into our life and then us making the decision, do we grow seeds there? Do I plant my seeds there or not? Do I focus my energy there or not? Or is there something in that part of your life, like if Virgo was in your fourth house, you can look at your home and go, hey, is there something in my home life that could use some newness or something to be born here? What do I need here that I don't have now or that I wish I can have, whether physically or energetically? That's what new moons are for. And I think the Mercury retrograde for some of us really did provide some Virgo issues, right? And then Mercury will shortly be in Virgo again after the new moon. So we're going to have that new moon September 2nd. Then on the 9th, Mercury comes back into Virgo while it's still in the thick of its Mercury retrograde integration phase, because until Mercury gets to 6-7 degrees, we're still in that post shadow, right? When it gets to the degree it originally went retrograde at, the integration phase is over. Okay. So all of the first week of September into the second week, we are still dealing with the repercussion of the retrograde, which is why I think the new moon will be somewhat tied into the retrograde story in some way, shape, or form. Now, those are really important things to keep in mind. Mars in Cancer, I just said before, that's happening September 4th. It will be in Cancer until election day, right? A day before the election is when Mars ingresses into Leo. So Mars in Cancer will be with us until election day. Okay. So we need to really prepare ourselves for whatever that's going to bring up, because I also made a video on this recently, which I encourage you to watch, because we're going to have an epic historic Mars retrograde this winter, where most of the retrograde will happen in Cancer, but it will begin at 6 degrees or 7 degrees Leo. Okay, so we really need to track and map what the the Mars and Cancer story is in our life from now. So we know what we are going to be kind of treading backwards upon, potentially, when the retrograde comes back into Cancer, when Mars retrograde comes back into Cancer in January. So I'm definitely going to talk more on Mars and Cancer, because again, the Mars retrograde is a massive 10-month journey. And again, I made a video on this recently, which only scratched the surface on some of the things that retrograde is going to be all about. But Mars in Cancer, this moment, September 4th, is the beginning of that 10-month journey. Okay, so I can't stress enough the Cancer part of our life. Okay, and it would be wise of all of us to really sink into that transit and just allow it to show us what it wants to show us. Okay, whatever it looks like. And we're not really going to know what it's going to show us yet. I mean, I can look at the Cancer part of my life where it is in the ninth house for me. Okay, and I'm saying to myself, holy crap, I don't know what can go on there with a Mars transit, really. I mean, I kind of have some ideas with the regular transit, but a retrograde there, I have no idea what that's going to bring me. But I know that I'm going to look for clues during the Mars transit when it starts happening there. I'm going to look for clues as September rolls on, as October rolls on, and then kind of wait and see what will happen over the winter. But this is a seeding point as well, guys. So again, this new moon in Virgo, I mean, you can really put intentions out for whatever you want, honestly. It's just the way astrology works is it will most likely manifest in the Virgo part of your life, obviously. But with so many active shifts happening in the month of September, anything's possible for what life will bring us, okay? So I can't sit here and predict for you that, Pluto in Capricorn will manifest something bigger for you than Mars in Cancer. Or when Mercury in Virgo happens, that's going to be a big, big thing for you. I don't know. All I know is that everything is shifting within a couple of weeks. And we're going to feel very, very different by the time the full moon partial lunar eclipse comes. And this is going to be a pretty big full moon, man. Definitely a big full moon. And I don't even want to really mention the sun in Virgo squares Jupiter, because I just think, the full moon is going to be much more of a story. But the sun in Virgo squaring Jupiter will be big for something on the world stage, and probably something in your life too. But that might be a moment where, maybe something that ties into the new moon story because of Virgo. But I don't even want to suggest that. I don't know why, that just kind of came to me. That something with the new moon story might be interfered with the sun square Jupiter. But really, guys, I feel the sun square Jupiter mid-month, September 12th, that's going to be more of a story for the world. I think we're going to have something pretty wild happen on the world stage. And if Trump and Kamala have a debate September 10th, which at the moment they are, but as the moment I'm recording this, things are all up in the air because Trump just says whatever he wants, and, obviously there's a tit for tat thing going on with the debate thing. But as of now, it's on. And 2 days after that debate would be the sun square Jupiter. And Jupiter is in a very sensitive place in both Kamala and Trump's birth charts, as well as a lot of other politicians' birth charts. But guys, so I would just say on the 12th, if you want me to sort of predict anything, keep a lookout for world events. Something may really, really big might kind of happen there. I think it has something to do with, world events versus something profound happening in our own life. Now, Tuesday, September 17th is when that full moon in Pisces will occur, which is also the partial lunar eclipse, of course, as well. It's one and the same thing. So after a new moon in Virgo and then a full moon in Pisces, we're flipping the script, right? We're literally going from, okay, what can we do? The mind being activated, new moon, we need to use our mind, analytics, being very observant, boots on the ground. How do we really manifest something? How do we properly plant seeds so we can intentionally get something born from nothing, potentially? Right? Because new moons are really seeding points. Okay. Whether we're building upon something that's already there or not is a different story. But the whole point of a new moon is to intend something new to come, whether energetically or physically. And Virgo is very analytical. It is very mental. It is about using our words and our communication skills to pursue something, to manifest something. So it's going to be very verbal, very analytical when it comes to Virgo, the new moon in Virgo specifically. I should have probably mentioned that before, but that's really what it's, that's how this mode of manifestation will be conquered. Mercury will be in Virgo by the time of this full moon. But Pisces, come on, with a lunar eclipse, this is a moment where we're going to either feel like super inspired. This is a moment where things might all come together on a very psychic level, a very spiritual level for many of us. Something will be illumined for you in the Pisces part of your life that may be complicated or it may be very revealing and beautiful, right? I always say that about full moons. Full moons are not love and light. They could be if something is revealed to you that's really awesome and beautiful, right? Something very enlightening, inspiring, creative, very spiritual. Something might just overwhelm you, right? But that could also be very challenging. And because we're dealing with the partial lunar eclipse, we're dealing with a heightened sense of intuition and psychicness. And I love how when the fall comes around, we always have a full moon in Pisces with a little bit of an eclipse story, even though the major eclipse story comes in October. But it's just so fitting for energetic bursts to come during such beautiful lunation cycles such as Pisces. So September 17th on the world stage is going to be pretty big, I believe. But for our own lives, again, getting ready to have something become revealed in the Pisces part of your birth charts, in the Pisces energy, generally speaking, right? And we're going to be dealing with something very psycho-spiritual, very creative, right? But for some of us, we might be dealing with confusion and delusion and potentially deception. So I'm only saying some of those more negative words because we're in a time where a lot of that is kind of just being flown around, and a lot of us are being sucked into the collective stuff. So when we talk about our everyday life or talk about some of our personal experiences, we have to be wary during anything that involves Pisces right now to affect us in some kind of negative way, because we also have Saturn there too. Okay, so whatever Saturn and Pisces story has been for you, this full moon will also be activating and revealing something there. So we must keep in mind your Saturn and Pisces story with this full moon and this partial lunar eclipse, which is going to just charge this up a little bit more. I feel the intensity of what's revealed and what's shown to you will be that much more sharp. So that's kind of like my forecast, really, with that on September 17th. Now, on the world stage, yeah, this is going to play out. I mean, you know, Trump is supposed to get sentenced September 18th. So this full moon in Pisces, partial lunar eclipse, will be falling in his 8th house. Okay. So that's, I don't know. That doesn't seem like a good thing. I don't think that's going to be a great thing for him. I think it's going to be very unfavorable. But will it really affect anything that is going on in the election cycle or whatever? I don't know. All I'm telling you is that this transit is falling in a very, very critical and sensitive part of his life. And that day, the day after this full moon partial lunar eclipse, for this to be manifesting is almost like, again, the trigger point. The day before that day, this trigger point is happening. And what is revealed the next day? Something will massively happen with him. Now, what that is, I don't know, like I just said. But it's falling in his 8th house. All right? Now, Sunday, September 22nd, we have Libra season beginning. So the sun will enter Libra. And then Venus will be at the anaretic degree of Libra, preparing its entrance into Scorpio, which happens the next day. So as we get towards the end of September, we are getting closer and closer to yet another energy shift, Venus in Scorpio. And we're going to have that sun in Libra, Venus in Scorpio happening at the same time. So talk about the sun being in a place where it will bring some really beautiful air energy to our lives again, since Gemini and Venus's domicile. But at the same time, Venus is going immediately into a very dark domain, a place it doesn't really like, Scorpio, and will be ruled by Mars at that point, or Pluto if you are in the wheelhouse of modern astrology. But Mars traditionally rules Scorpio. So that's going to be an interesting shift there as well. So do you see how this entire month is just, it's like a ping pong match of shifts. We start the month, we get to the middle of the month, literally all personal planets change signs, everything shifts. We're going to feel every one area of our life get totally activated by a new energy. Pluto and Capricorn will be just bringing a really massive undertone to a lot of the stuff we were dealing with for the last 15 years. So wherever Capricorn is in your life, things might just get reactivated a little bit from literally the transformation we all went through during that transit, going back through 2008. So just kind of reflect on what that has been for you, because we have grown so much, have we not? And yeah. And then as we get towards the end of September, more vibe shifts. Sun in Libra, Venus in Scorpio. That Venus transit we're going to feel, right? For some of us, that Venusian energy into that darker place in our life where Scorpio resides will probably be nice for some of us. But for some of us, it might also become a little bit emotional because we may feel things we don't want to feel. And with Mars in Cancer, we're already going to feel things we don't want to feel. So Mars in Cancer, Venus in Scorpio, we're going to have a lot of water activation. Okay, a lot of watery activation. And just after the full moon in Pisces, we're talking about a lot of emotion coming up. So I believe a lot of us are going to feel a lot midway through September on. We're going to be dealing with a lot of watery energy. Mars in Cancer is going to start that party. The full moon in Pisces is going to activate even more waterworks, whatever that is. Then Venus in Scorpio will provide more emotion. Now, Venus in Scorpio can also be very promiscuous, right? Can be very assertive, actually. Venus can get a little bit assertive there because it's ruled by Pluto and Mars. So Venus getting into the territory of Pluto and Mars can be very active, actually. And it could be interesting for the way we manifest possibly in that part of our life. But we also have to be careful not to manifest things that make us feel too good, right? Because Venus and Scorpio can get into trouble. So we want to be careful on what's actually going on in that part of our life. And we don't want to take on too much pleasure in dark places or with dark things. So again, I'm not alluding that any of you are involved in any promiscuous or darker things or any sort of abuse stuff. But again, Venus and Scorpio people, some people, they can really have a good time. They love to feel good, right? So we have to be careful with that kind of stuff. But again, what's the point? Without pontificating on details I'm not even qualified to start giving you on what Venus and Scorpio in your life can represent, we're dealing with a vibe shift into a place where darkness may manifest, but also darkness is a good thing for some of us, where we need to look at things in a new light. And wherever Scorpio is in your life probably has trauma, probably is very, very psychic and intuitive. And bringing Venus there is only going to shine a light on some of those things and whatever's going on in your current reality regarding your Scorpio experience. And for some of us, like I said, Venus there will be a breath of fresh air. It'll bring a breath of Libra energy and Taurus energy potentially to the Scorpio, right? Or it can bring us to a place where we want to maybe have pleasure in things that could be unhealthy. And yeah, I just feel like that needs to be said for any sort of Scorpio transit, especially when we're bringing Venus there, which is a planet of pleasure and love, right? So yeah, my friends, I think that's all I'm going to say today, actually. We're going to have a Mercury Cazimi literally September 30th as well. So that's something that I'll talk about at a later date. But just to conclude this video at under 30 minutes, I think I said enough. I think I gave you guys a good overview to the best of my ability on what this month will be about. Stay tuned for further videos. Stay tuned for a podcast probably coming soon on Patreon. And there I'm going to get real wild there. I think I'm going to get real wild. I'm going to talk about world stuff there. I'm going to get more collective there. And yeah, my friends, by the time the next month rolls around, we have a solar eclipse to talk about. So very much looking forward to that. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all very soon.